Advances in E-Services, organized by IIS-TIE, the International Cell, and the Department of CSIT of IIS deemed to be University, Jaipur, in association with Jaipur ACM Professional Chapter. IIS deemed to be University India is among the pioneers in the state of Rajasthan in imparting quality education to women in different streams. It is known for excellence in delivering value based education and encourages them to think innovatively. IIS TIE, the international cell of IIS deemed to be university, facilitates international exposure and global experience to the students as well as the faculty members. It oversees and manages the existing and future international relationships, collaborations, and partnerships, contributing to the university's strategic aim towards internationalization. The webinar series iWaves provided a forum for discussing emerging ideas and technical knowledge in the field of information technology and e-services towards meeting the need of a growing population and the challenging lifestyle. To start with today's event, I request Dr. Astha Parikh, Senior Assistant Professor, CSNIT, and Coordinator, iWaves 2020, to deliver the webinar report.
Thank you, Mehak. Namaskar. I welcome all participants to the valedictory ceremony of iWaves 2020 International Webinars on Advances in E-Services organized by IIS-TIE, the International Cell, and the Department of Computer Science and IT IS deemed to be University, Jaipur, in association with Jaipur ACM Professional Chapter. iWaves 2020 was a series of 4 webinars held from 13th to 19th August 2020. The objective of the webinar series was to provide insight and knowledge about the current trends in the area of e-services and having a wider perspective on this topic by eminent international researchers. The webinar series began on 13th August 2020, wherein a formal inaugural ceremony of the webinar series was held, followed by the deliberations of the webinar. Professor Vijay Singh Rathod, convener, iWaves 2020, and the director, IIS-TIE, the international cell of IIS deemed to be university, welcomed all the participants and acquainted them with the aims and objective of the webinar. Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Ashok Gupta inaugurated the official website of IIS-TIE and also delivered the welcome address. The inaugural session was concluded by Dr. Anubha Jain, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of CS&IT, who proposed a formal vote of thanks to all the members involved in the planning and execution of the event. Post the inaugural ceremony, speaker Professor Jyoti Chaudhary delivered her talk on the topic Older Adults Information Processing Behavior about COVID-19 Cure and Prevention, a qualitative study. Professor Jyoti Chaudhary is a professor of Information System at University of Hertfordshire. She introduced the participants to the use of AI with cognitive technology in order to distinguish between true and misinformation. She explained how nowadays easy access to information is aiding to the spread of fake news and affecting the current scenario and older adults' behavior towards non-conventional sources of information. This very informative talk ended with an interactive QA session. On 15th August 2020, the second day of the webinar, 3 talks were held. First, by Professor Puri, Professor University of Milan, Italy, on artificial intelligence for cloud computing and IoT, followed by the talk of Professor Pester, Dean, College of Computer Studies, on the topic Cybersecurity, Multidisciplinary Approach Present and Post-COVID-19, and talk by Joe, Professor Faculty of Engineering, Portugal, on the topic Computational Image Analysis, Techniques and Results. All the 3 talks were very informative. Participants enthusiastically came up with many questions with which the eminent speakers took up with a great interest. On the third day of the webinar, there were 2 sessions, Importance of Explainability in Machine Learning Approaches, led by Dr. Katrina, Lecturer in Information System, Australia, and Neural Network Architecture Optimization, led by Professor Milan Tuba, Vice Rector, Serbia. The participants were introduced to how artificial intelligence came into the existence by God time itself, deep learning concepts, and the importance to incorporate interpretability in predictive process analysis, and interval probabilistic approach to discover black box by Dr. Maria, while adding Professor Tuba explained the actual meaning of deep in the term of deep learning. He also explained a simple mathematical tool that is neural network and its features and optimization problem in AI tool versus humans. At the conclusion of the webinar, the QA round was held in which the participants got an opportunity to put forward questions to state their curiosity. It is an immense honor for me to present among you all and welcome you to the final day of the webinar series IWay 2020. I again extend my warm welcome to the speakers and the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Professor Vijay Singh Rathore, convener iWaves 2020 and director IIS TI, the international cell of IIS University, to express his views and impressions for the webinar series. Thank you, sir.
Good evening to one and all. Honorable Chancellor of IIS deemed to be University, Dr. Ashok Gupta, Professor Paul Koski from Poland, Professor Vincenzo Piri from Italy, Professor Lance from Australia, and all the participants. I again welcome you all in the fourth webinar and the validity session of iWaves 2020. As Dr. Astha Parikh very well said that on 13th we inaugurated the event, and these iWaves reached to different countries. Started with UK, then Poland, then Portugal, Italy, Philippines, and Serbia, Belgrade, all these countries. And now again we are coming back to the valedictory session of the event, and we are very fortunate and honored to say that all the three webinars went very well, and this fourth webinar will also, we hope that will go very nice. And I am thankful to our Chancellor, Dr. Ashok Gupta ji, who has always directed us to do the best things. Once I heard from some, there was a president of US, he told that I have a very simple test. I am satisfied with the best. And that is the thinking of our Chancellor, Dr. Ashok Gupta sir also. And the other thing what we have learned from him is the punctuality. So by all his blessings and directions, we have been able to conduct such a nice event with the help of our IIS TI International Cell team and Department of Computer Science team. So I would like to congratulate all the team members of IIS University for conducting such a nice event with the help of Jaipur SCM Professional Chapter. And without taking much time, I'd like to thank one and all the participants for giving their precious time and to come here to learn the things and to give their very nice feedbacks also. And we hope that in future also we'll be doing such activities at international level with different objectives. We are just planning another event in the month of January 2021, that is Best Boss 2020. So get ready for that Best Boss. We will soon declare all the objectives and how we are going to do, what are the deliverables there in the Best Boss 2020-2021. So welcome you all again, and I hope best for the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. May I now request Dr. Rakhi Gupta, Registrar, IIS deemed to be University, to share her valuable insights with us and express her impressions on the webinar series iWaves 2020.
Thank you, Mehak. Namaskar, everybody. Honorable Chancellor of the IIS University, revered and speakers from India and abroad, Professor Vijay Singh ji, other organizing team committee members, and dear delegates. I take this opportunity to congratulate Professor Vijay Singh Rathore ji and his entire team of the International Cell and Department of CS&IT for organizing this series of webinar. It is heartening to note that at this point in time, when organizations and people around the world are attempting to navigate around the unprecedented times of COVID crisis, these webinars, I mean the webinars organized by our international cell, have received tremendous response and has witnessed participation in large numbers. It has also been shared by the delegates that the topics covered in the sessions were also research-based, which will eventually help them in undertaking their research projects effectively. On behalf of IS University, I would like to thank the resource persons who took out time to share their expertise with the delegates, and look forward to their support in our future endeavors, also in making the higher education more meaningful and more relevant. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Professor K.S. Sharma, advisor, IIS deemed to be university, to say a few words and deliver his views and opinions on webinar series iWaves 2020.
Good evening. Dr. Ashok Gupta, Chancellor of the University, Dr. Rakhi Gupta, Registrar of the University, Dr. Vijay Singh Rathore, the Organizing Secretary and Director of this conference. As Dr. Rakhi Gupta has rightly said, I would like to appreciate efforts of the Dr. Vijay Singh Rathore. He has made this program a very success in the sense that he has been able to motivate and motivate the speakers from all over the world, that they have been giving the time for this conference by speaking on so very recent topics like artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural network, etc., which have benefited a large number of audience from India and all over the world. In fact, I have only heard about the e-waves, just the electromagnetic wave in the form of which light travels from one place to another. But Dr. Vijay Singh Rathore has given a new concept of I-waves, waves, which is just spreading in the form of IT from all over the world. The knowledge waves, IT waves, probably he means that knowledge waves on new topics like artificial intelligence and machine learning, etc., which spread the knowledge all over the world from one country to another. And I suppose that there are audience from a number of countries in addition to India. So all the audience will be benefited by his efforts. And I would like to appreciate the speakers who have given time and cooperated very much, and a very useful knowledge on recent topics which have benefited all the audience, and in particular the faculty and the university. So I would like to appreciate and thank Professor Vijay Singh Rathore, his team, and ACM for organizing this event, and all the speakers for their gesture for giving their valuable talks on this in this series. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Dr. Ashok Gupta, Honorable Chancellor, IIS deemed to be university, to kindly deliver the concluding remarks for the webinar series iWaves 2020.
Namaskar. Professor C.C. Lanspoon, Dr. Paul Kowalski, Professor Rakhi Gupta, Professor K.S. Sharma, Professor Vijay Singh Rathore, faculty members and students. It's a matter of immense pleasure to address you all through this virtual platform of iWaves 2020. It is the dynamic of technology that has not stopped our learning and united us all from different corners of the world to share knowledge and experiences during this webinar series. Today, the world, every sector and every business is looking up to technology for solutions to problems which we never ever imagined. No one can deny the indispensable role being played by technology in this time of many new normals. I'm sure that renowned experts from different parts of the world might have encapsulated concepts and ideas of the evolving aspects of advances in e-services that would open new dimensions of research and studies. I express my gratitude to all the experts who participated and congratulate the entire team for organizing this series. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. Rajveer Singh Shekhawat, Chairman, Jaipur ACM Professional Chapter, to please share his expert opinion with us.
I think Rajvi sir has not joined yet. So,
Okay,
Mac
sir.
madam, we
Yes,
can
sir.
go ahead.
All right. All right. So before we begin, I request you all the participants and speakers, to please switch on their video cameras so we can take a snapshot of this moment. Please switch on your camera so we can take a snapshot. Okay. Thank you. You may all please switch off your cameras now. May I now request the moderator for today's session, Dr. Neha Tiwari, Associate Professor and Additional Head, CS and IT Department, IIS deemed to be University Jaipur, to please take over for the session proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mehak. Good evening, everyone. We now begin with the sessions of the day in the fourth webinar hosted by IIS TAI and the Department of Computer Science and IT of the IIS deemed to be University. Without further delay, let me introduce you all to the first speaker of the day, Dr. Polwoski, who is a professor, a rector's representative for international cooperation, an Erasmus Plus program, and is also an adjunct professor in the Department of Business Intelligence in Management. He holds these positions at two different universities of Poland. Dr. Polwoski holds a PhD degree in computer science and management and has his areas of interest include IT and IoT in business and education technology. His publications and research projects speak volumes for his contribution in the field of IT. Today, he is going to discuss e-services, business and public administration in Poland. I request Dr. Polwoski to start with the session. I request Dr. Polwoski to begin the session.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes, sir. It's
I'm
visible.
going to say a few words about e-services in business and public administration in Poland. As you see, I'm going to concentrate just on my country, and I'm going to present the current situation and my, let's say, opinion about the future in context e-services in Poland. But at the beginning, let me say special thanks for Professor Singh Ratore. It was mentioning that Professor Ratore is well-known, very active scientist in Poland and Europe, and he has built fantastic international scientific family. To be honest,
Thank you so much, sir.
I'm today just thanks Professor. And it's worth to say that I met Professor first time in India. I was in India 10 times, and during one visit, I met fantastic professor. It was in Sikkim. So a few words about Poland. As you see, I'm from Poland. Poland is a member of EU, and why I'm saying about Poland and EU, because Poland as a member of EU is like a one small country inside of one big country. So it means that in context of IT systems, we can talk about some IT system in Poland. We can see about some IT system in Germany, Italy, France, and so on. And we can talk also about IT system on the level of EU. So as you know, probably, we have some IT solutions, e-services on national level, on EU level. But I think that in the future, we will have just e-services on EU level. So at the beginning, few words about coronavirus in Poland, because some professors before this presentation have asked me about the situation. As you see, situation in Poland is not good. So in this moment, we have approximately 700, 600 cases per day. But in March, we had 200, 300. So yeah, it's not good, but we try to live, we try to work. Even during this summer, I have organized some summer internship for students, and let me show, even during this meeting, you can see two names of two students, Arkadiusz Dębski from Poland and Marco Dilda from Italy. Even this, we have this difficult situation, but we still try to work, and we still try to keep contacts with students, not just online contacts, but face to face, of course, with some restrictions as well. So if we are talking about coronavirus in Poland, we can say that there are some, let's say, parts where situation is under control, but this Śląskie is, more affected by coronavirus. Why? Because in this part of Poland, we have so many businesses and factories, and population is very high in this part of Poland. So let me say a few words about the introduction in context of e-services. So this diagram presents time spent on social networks. As you see, Poland is not a, let's say, fan of social networks. But if we are talking about young generation, I can say that young people in Poland, they use social network very often, let's say every day, but if you compare to other countries, we are not leaders. So which platform we use everywhere? So I can say that in Poland, number one is Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp. I would like to emphasize it's not so popular. So why am I saying about it? Because I have a lot of misunderstanding with contacts with my friends from India, because in India, professors, they use WhatsApp every time, everywhere, whole day, but we don't use it. We use Messenger, we use Facebook. But of course, I use WhatsApp, and for me, it's not problem, but sometimes they don't understand why some professor from Poland didn't receive some message, didn't sign some documents. So you are, the best in WhatsApp. This picture presents that WhatsApp is very popular in India, in Russia, in this part, Africa, and so South America. But if we are talking about East Europe, take a look, we use mostly Facebook and Messenger. So I'm saying about it because many e-services are directly connected with Messenger and Facebook, but it's very difficult to find some e-services which are connected with WhatsApp in my country. So What about social media and business? So this diagram is in Polish language, but I will translate so it will be no problem. First of all, we use in businesses social media for marketing. After that, keep some good relations with customers. So it means this is like a part of CRM systems, and to find people for job. So before pandemic in Poland, we had very good situation in context of job. So rate of unemployed people in Poland was approximately less than 4%. Now, because of this difficult situation, we have more bigger problem with unemployed people, but I think that very soon we will manage. So now I'm presenting you factors which can have an influence on the level of the use e-services in business and public administration. So if we are talking on business, so the level of the use of e-services in business depends very often on top management. In public administration, not too much, because very often government forces some public institutions to implement e-services. So it means there is some difference in businesses. So people, businessmen, they want to use e-services because they like, they want, they see, but sometimes in public administration, of course, they like, they want, but to be honest, they are implementing something under pressure of government. So if we are talking about public administration system in Poland, we have some, let's say, system, I think, similar, like which you have in India. As I know, you have states, you have some main government and some, let's say, governments in states. We have some, let's say, parts and which have some a bit autonomy, but of course we have to follow according some uh, general government and administration. So ICT solutions in government and public administration. So if we want to implement, we have to take into account some, let's say, parts, elements like information, software system, infrastructure. But so important is infrastructure. In my cities, as you have heard, I work in 2 universities, and in both cities we have very good infrastructure if you are talking about internet. If you want to use e-services, you have to have very fast speed of internet, and we are building very good fast, let's say, fiber optic systems, fiber optic networks, and in some places we have speed. Now I'm at university and I have speed over 900, so this is very fast. In my house I have 100, here 800, 900. So it means government takes care about this kind of infrastructure, because how we can implement e-services without this infrastructure. Also, is worth mentioning that government has implemented very good programs supported by EU for ordinary people, and to be honest, everybody can use e-services because access to the internet is quite easy in this moment, but we didn't have this situation in the past. So as you know, we have private and public cloud computing. So in context of public administration and businesses, we use both of those kinds. Sometimes we use private cloud computing, sometimes public cloud computing. Public cloud computing is model which we are using very often in public administration. Private cloud computing is very popular in some businesses, companies which want to have some integrated system in one place, well secure. It is good if a company has not one location but is located in 2, 3, 4 places. So this model which I'm presenting now, this is model of IT system, but take a look, this is hybrid information system. As you see, there are many kinds of solutions you can find here: private cloud computing, public cloud computing. We can find some portal for customers, some portal for employees, and some, IT system on premise. So on the one hand is good, but on the other hand is not good, because take a look, the best IT system is if it's well integrated, but it's difficult to integrate all species, all kinds, all solutions which we have in this moment. So in the end of my presentation, I will emphasize again that the biggest problem in this moment to implement e-services in Poland is to integrate all IT systems which we have. So as I told you, cloud computing system is year by year popular and more popular. So we are moving some solutions from premise, from our offices, from our businesses to the cloud. And the most popular model is service as a software, probably the same like in India, Italy, Germany, and so on. But as I told you, in some companies, some people, managers have started to implement cloud computing systems in model infrastructure as a software. So next trend, which is good to take into account in context of e-services, is mobile technology. Mobile technology is everywhere. Even when I was abroad in many countries, everywhere mobiles is common. Everybody uses smartphone. And some ERP systems which we have in Poland have let's say, options which allow to use smartphones, so from outside of office. So in the future, we expect that we will have more and more this kind of solutions. Of course, we should take into account some web technology in context of e-services. In this moment, let's say in Poland, I would say we are between Web 2.0, Web 3.0. Sometimes we have some solutions, Web 4.0, but future is Web 5.0. So it means that we have to work more. We have to do some research in context of this technology as well to build good environment for e-services. So let me say a few words about shopping, online shopping in Poland in context of coronavirus. Take a look. Before pandemic, so people, of course, they have used some shops, electronic shops. But when we have we were blocked, we had to use online shopping. So we have been forced. And take a look that in March, many people in my country started to use online shops to buy some things, which, first of all, food, next some goods for health and electronics, and some goods for children. These are, let's say, four the most important parts of products. So next, what I want to say about Poland and in context of e-services that many people, many companies, they do some, let's say, online shopping using this portal. This portal exists mostly only in Poland, is prepared by IT specialists from my country. And I'm sure that over 90% of our citizens from Poland, they buy uh, online just using this portal. So because some shops are connected, and for example, I use this portal every day, let's say. This is something like eBay, and I'm saying about it because when I was in India, many businessmen, many professors, they asked me how to sell products in Poland. To be honest, it's difficult without some person who is from Poland, who knows this portal. If you know some person from Poland who knows Polish language, who knows this portal, it's quite easy. Without this, quite difficult. So because this is in Polish language. What is interesting, this portal is well connected with some parcel machines. I think that in your country, you have this kind of system. But what is interesting, before pandemic, for example, I used this screen and I've been touching some keys, buttons, and so on. But when we started to deal with this pandemic, I started to use mobile solutions. So it means that if I have some parcel, I can open this machine using my mobile phone, and I don't need to touch any things. So it means in context of pandemic, this is quite good solutions, and it is good to emphasize that this mobile application I have never used before this pandemic. So of course, we have some portals for used products, and this portal is from Germany, is very popular in Germany. It's not so common in Poland, but I want to emphasize that some countries, they have specific portals. So now a few words about e-services for citizens, for ordinary people. This is, let's say, ID in mobile phone. So you don't need to have ID just to have mobile phone with this ID, and you can do many things in some offices and public administration. So we have some electronic platform on public administration services. So to be honest, based on this platform, you can do all necessary things in each office in my country. So you don't need to go to this office and to talk to some officers face to face. So of course we have e-signature. I've been using my signature, which you see on the right, Certo Meaning, since 2010. But since last year, I started to use e-signature in my mobile phone. So it means that if my friends, professors from India, they will send me a contract of book, something like that, I can sign this contract using my mobile phone. So this is quite unique, as I want to say, we didn't have this kind of solution 2 years, 5 years ago. So of course we have some e-services, e-declarations. So this let's say system supports us to send e-declarations in context of taxes, and you can do it from your office, from your home. You don't need to go to office. What is interesting in Poland and Europe, we have very strong regulations in context of garbage. And since 2019, all companies have to register in this PDO system, waste management database, and this system collects all information about garbage even, especially electronic garbage computers, which we don't want to use, and so on. It's not allowed to throw it away. It's not allowed to throw it glasses, paper, and so on. We have strong restrictions. Some friends who are from Europe, they know what I'm talking about. Maybe in India you have this kind of solutions. I don't know, but I have never heard about it. Also, we have some central record and information about business activity. So it means that you can set on your business without, face-to-face contact with officers. You can do it from your home using electronic signature or e-PUAP system. So also we have some central system of vehicles and drivers. So thanks to this system, we don't need to have documents by your side like 5, 4, 10 years ago. So it means that uh, our wallet in this moment, it's not heavy because we don't need to keep so many documents, credit cards, and plastic cards like 2 years ago. Next system, this is electronic services platform for businessmen, for companies. In this platform, using this platform, you can see all information about your insurance, which money you will have if you are retired, and so on, in one place. But as you see, so there are many different systems, not, so they look in different ways. So in my opinion, the best option would be if we have one system which will collect all those services in one place, and we could use from one place, not from many internet addresses and so on. I've heard about this kind of system. Last year, I had one student from Norway, and he told me that because he has been studying in Denmark, that in Denmark he had some, let's say, quite good advanced this system with e-services. Next system is patient.gov.pl. So if you are sick, you can contact with your doctor. Even in this moment, it's quite important. By phone, by this system, you can organize appointment, and he can prepare for you some prescriptions. Everything is we are doing this online. Even we didn't want to do it, we prefer to have face-to-face contact with doctors. But now, to be honest, last time I was in my doctor last year because of this pandemic. Even I had to, but I couldn't. So this is system which I'm presenting now on the EU level. Before, I have been presenting you some systems on national level, but this is example of EU level. For example, you can check VHT number validation. You can check this number using this system. So it means that we have some system on EU level and national level. Everything have to be well protected, and that's why in 2019 we have to start to implement GDPR in all countries in Europe, in Poland as well. And this diagram presents you some, let's say, the people who are involved in this kind of activities. Also, we have some agency on EU level which supports us in context to secure this kind of ICT solutions. As I told you, the biggest problem, this is my personal opinion, this is integration of ICT system. So in my opinion, good IT system in one country is a system which will have similar elements, one place, one address, the same colors, the same fonts, and so on. As you see, they are quite good, but each looks in different way. But this is first step. But second step, it will be to implement and to integrate all system in the best way on EU level. So conclusion, during the pandemic, e-services in Poland are developing very dynamically because people, even if they did not want to use it, they have to be forced by the current situation and existing many limitations in everyday life. In the future, we will not use any documents, keys, I mean car keys, home keys, etc. Everything we will do using smartphones. We will not use wallet. Even in this moment, my wallet is quite empty. I don't need to use cash. I don't need to use documents. Next step, maybe implants. As you have heard, mobile technologies is very useful, and we are putting some solutions to mobiles, to smartphones, but you know, smartphone is a thing which you will have to keep by your side every time. What about the situation if you in this moment will not have mobile phone? This is quite difficult situation. That's why maybe implants, it means that some mobile technologies we will start to put to our body, maybe Internet of Things, maybe Internet of Everything. Thank you very much for the invitation once again. Special thanks for my Indian friends. I really missing India. As I told you, I was in India 10 times. I hope that I will have chance to visit India again. Thank you very much.
Very sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for such a nice talk, sir. And you will be happy to know that Dr. Amit Joshi and Dr. Nilanjan Dey, they are also there in the meeting. And I would like to, before starting Professor Lance's talk, I would like to invite Dr. Nilanjan Dey to say a few words, if he is there. Dr. Nilanjan Dey. Are you there, sir? Fine. So, till he comes back, I again like to invite the anchors to invite the next speaker, Professor Lance.
Sure,
And
sir.
for Professor Lance, I would like to say that he has been fighting the election for, he's the candidate of President-elect for Region 10 IEEE. And we wish that, sir, definitely this time you come and the people like you, we need the people like you to lead us and to serve the this technical fraternity. Take your best efforts. Thank you so much.
So all present, Dr. Polwoski, let me take a moment to express my appreciation for the ideas that you have shared with us today. It's a matter of great honor to have our second guest speaker of the day, Professor Fang, who did his PhD from Australia in the applications of AI techniques and has an honorary PhD degree in information technology. Currently, he is acting as an emeritus professor at Murdoch University and is a nominated candidate for the IEEE 2021-22 Asia Pacific Region R10. Professor Fang's research involvement includes the design and development of innovative intelligent technologies and advanced techniques to solve practical problems. I now request Professor Fang to share with his knowledge on the challenges of ethical machines, which is the topic of the talk.
Okay.
I request.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can see my screen now. And you can hear me?
It's not visible so far.
Yep, you can hear me as well? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, you can hear me? That's good.
Yes, sir, it's visible. It's visible.
It's okay? All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, good evening all and good afternoon wherever you are. I do see my colleagues from the other part of the world, in particular in Region 8. And I see Professor Vince, and also I have heard excellent presentation by Professor Kolowski in terms of the activities and also the system over in Poland. And I think that we all can learn a lot from the e-services implementation and also the development and the trends as well. And it's truly my honor and my pleasure going to be here with you this evening. One thing I must say that, well, being one of the candidates of the coming 2021 to 2022 election, well, we do have 3 other excellent candidates from other part of Region 10. They are Professor Subhavadi from Thailand, and also Professor Celia from Bangladesh, and also Professor Noiza from Malaysia. And I believe that every candidate, well, is a worthy leader of IEEE. It does not really matter whatever position we are serving. So as far as today is concerned, I really see myself more as a messenger and a pointer to the resources in IEEE. Because you will see later on, I will just point to some of the recent development. It has been going on for a few years. And also I'm using some of the materials whereby I organized a webinar sometime last week on the 8th of August. We're looking into one of the areas. I do believe that in times to come, we may have to spend more effort to looking into that. It's in terms of the ethical issues for the autonomous and the intelligence machine. In particular, that we are seeing that more and more the system we're going to integrate it into our society and dealing with human beings. So I'm just hoping that this particular presentation, that whereby I can point to you some of the resources and the publication that has been released from IEEE. And I must make the declaration, I'm not really expert in this area. I just really get interested in that because not long ago that I was involved in one of the panels as a panel speaker on a similar topic on development of AI. And one thing dawned upon me is, well, a lot of the presentation in the conferences and all talking about technology, talking about how they apply the different development and different results using this algorithm, that algorithm. But when we look into our mission and vision of IEEE, we are advancing technologies.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Your screen is not visible.
It's all right?
Is not visible. I think it's not visible. Neha, madam, are you able to see?
It's visible, sir, but we request you, sir, to please move on to the next slide.
Okay, all right, then.
Fine, now it's visible.
Okay.
Now it's
Yeah,
visible, sir.
yeah, thank you. It is
Go on further.
Thanks a
Because
lot.
I did hear about the situation about COVID-19. Well, I'm really pleased to say that our Australia situation is under control, except one of the states, which is Victoria. And well, we are really compared to the world that we are having 24,000 and we're a couple hundreds per day. But over in some of the states, we are getting better. But overall, we are also experiencing the second wave right now. So we are hoping that we are able to address the situation. As you can see, the trend now is coming down now. So as far as my topic today is concerned, I'm talking about the topic of ethical machines. And as I was saying earlier on, because I'm really interested to find out that in terms of IEEE missions and vision is advancing technology for humanity. But I discovered a lot of this discussion, we concentrate so much on the technology part, and we didn't hear too much about in terms of the humanity. So this draws my attention, and then I realized that we have been doing quite a fair bit of work in the one of the initiatives called the Global Initiatives on the autonomous and the intelligent system. So I just want to point and draw the attention of the audience to those areas of development. So once again, well, I take the opportunity to thank you for Professor Vijay Singh for the invitations. He's a professor of computer science, and director international of IIS University, Jaipur, and he is also the secretary of the ACM Jaipur chapter, past chair of the CIS Jaipur Center as well. And I must say that, well, my share is entirely my opinion and my experience, so they're not necessarily the opinion of IEEE, and all the information I'm sharing, as much as possible, are publicly available online. So we first of all take a look in terms of the AI. Well, I have heard that the earlier, well, you have a 4-day event, this is the last one, and most of the discussion early on, you're talking about how the AI is being applied to different areas. So maybe we can go back to take a look at the opportunities or possible job, threat to the job on AI. And also, we take a look at some reports that take a look at the machines can they be biased or not. And then we can compare this one to our expectation or our behavior as a professional, like engineers, like computer scientists. But we do have a code of ethics. So we compare to this expectation. Then we have to ask the question: are we expecting, or should we expect our system, our machine, to be able to exhibit the equal or different type of behavior, or ethical behavior as well? Then, as I said, I'm going to point to some of the recent development in the IEEE Global Initiative on Ethics for the Autonomous and Intelligent System, and also some of the standards that have been developed by IEEE as well. This is still ongoing. As I said, I'm just sharing some of the information I heard from the recent webinar. So currently, well, I know that your university is somewhere on the middle and northern part of India, and I'm staying in the west coast. Okay, Murdoch University is the second oldest university in the state of WA. The oldest one is University of Western Australia, and the Murdoch University having 50 years, coming to 50 years. UWA have over 100 years, and two other universities are Curtin University and E.D. Carvan University. And we do have one private university, Notre Dame University. Unlike India, we have very small number of public university, private university. Well, even though that most of the public university, we still have to get the fund. Now, getting to know me, you can find my profile on my university website, and you just simply search Murdoch University, Lance Fung, and profile. The reason I'm sharing this one is because you can get some of my past papers and also students' thesis, whereby if you find any of my sharing is of interest to you, there might be some past work in there. I'm not going to talk too much about my past because, well, officially I retired 5 years ago, but I've dedicated most of my time in the recent years, meaning the IEEE in some of a few areas. Well, currently I'm the Region 10 Educational Activities Committee Chair, and also been serving on the Conference Quality Committee, the Technical Program Integrity Committee, New Initiatives Committee, for quite many years now, 6 or 7 years. And also on this System and Cybernetic Society, one of the board of members of the Board of Governors for 6 years or 2 terms, and also locally in the section chairs and Australian Council, etc. A lot of time when I share these few pictures, I'm really amazed at, well, how technology have changed. Well, the first 2 pictures, it was back in the early 70s. Well, this one is not. The first one is in 1974 when I was on the first ship. I was a radio officer. And second one, 1976. And talking about the transmitter we use is based on valves. It's only 1 kilowatt. But I was the only one on board the ship in the open ocean, unable to contact with the rest of the world. And more or less, well, the safety of the ship is really, well, part of my responsibility. And if the ship go down, well, I'll be the second last one to leave with the captain. But then again, over the years now, we can see satellite technology, well, have been coming in. Just in the first 2 pictures, well, in 2 years' time, I've already observed the satellite technology has come in, the position fixing, and later on become the emergency safety applications. And later on, of course, nowadays we have the communication everywhere now. When I go to cruises, well, nowadays I can get the internet, well, 24 hours now. And then the other picture I have is, well, my master degree, when I started my dissertation, it was working on the microprocessor. That was my first encounter. It was a Motorola 6800 microprocessor, 8-bit. Now looking back from 1981 until now, for around 40 years, you can see how the advancement of technology has been over these few decades. But it's more interesting to take a look what will happen in the future. What we're doing right now, well, can we project it? What is going to happen in the next 30, 40 years? And it's quite interesting to see that earlier on the sharing by Professor Polowski talking about the different webs, and especially looking at the web, I think 6.0 or so, he's talking about emotional things. It's quite interesting. In terms of my past academic performance, you can quickly take a look at my website. Well, there are lists of the publication in there. And over, I think 60% of those papers, you can download the full text. And my university recorded, my statistic is probably around 61,000 download since 2009. And also can get the complete thesis of the student I've supervised, around 30 or so. Always encourage a student, if there are any among you in the audience, you might be a good starting point looking at some of the areas of research you might be interested in. In the public domain, you can find my information on the Google Scholar in terms of citation and H-index, and also some others like the IEEE Explore and also Scoopers, etc. Okay, so let's finish off with my self-introduction. Well, looking back in AI now, of course, one of the, just like in the past, any change of new technology come in, it always creates some kind of uncertainty, and even people feel threatened about their jobs, etc. So this particular article was reported in 2018, or just 2 years ago, in August the 7th, and it's really concerned about the job losses, and then talking about how AI can take over people's jobs. But in particular, interesting looking at some of these, maybe blue collars, assembly line, etc. But interestingly, from the same website, in the same year, just a few weeks later, this was in September 2018. Well, you were saying that artificial intelligence to create 58 million new jobs by 2022, says the report. So in other words, really, there are two schools of thought. On one hand, we can see that AI is able to replace some of the job. That's exactly what's happening right now. We're talking about the automation. We're talking about the robotic, process automation. We're changing a lot of jobs. It has been, we expect, it has to be done by human beings, but that's not no longer true now. Even you're talking about jobs like lawyers, medical doctor, we're able to see the diagnosis, from the machines, maybe even more accurate and faster, than the human. And even talking about some other industry, like the insurance broker, like looking at the bank officers, we're looking at the approving the financial credits and also determining the credit fraud and all those things. So all these are happening. But more importantly, we see another report earlier this year from the World Economic Forum. They're talking about jobs of tomorrow. They're talking about the mapping opportunities in the new economy. In a way, I see that maybe it's quite appropriate for us at this moment of time where we can reflect, based on this COVID-19. No doubt there's a lot of changes that come to us very abruptly. But nevertheless, we also see there's a lot of new opportunities can be opened up as well. In particular, I've seen so many of these webinars and also so much interest when looking into areas like data, AI, machine learning, deep learning, and all those things. So according to the report, so what it has identified in terms of so-called cluster, so they're talking about a number of opportunities between 2020 to 2022. And each of these clusters, they're looking at the jobs and then they're looking at how the different main areas. So each cluster is around 10,000. So we multiply these figures by 10,000. Say, for example, in the data and AI, it's expected to grow from 78, multiplied by this by 780,000 to 123. In other words, it will be 1.23 million. Engineering and cloud computing. So I heard just now, you're talking about from Poland, situation, a lot of the resources, services are now on the cloud. And also some other areas like the care economy, looking at the aging population, the health, a green economy, looking at people concerned about climate change and also the environment, etc. So, but in general, you can see still roughly maybe around 40 to 50% growth, in terms of job. So this is another chart. I'm sorry that it may not appear too clear. So what is just shown in here is on different axes in terms of the percentage growth and also the number of jobs, etc. So what stands out in here is the AI somewhere in here, and also data science somewhere in here as well. So you can take a look at the actual source by searching the document from World Economic Forum. So some these areas, these main clusters, say for example, like data and AI, so identify some of these areas like deep learning, TensorFlow, data science, advanced machine learning, applied data science with Python. So, and then talking about what are the skills that are required, okay? So these are the things that we can anticipate. It's going to be ongoing interest, growth opportunities. So if it is from the academic point of view or from the industry point of view, those are the things maybe we should pay attention to. Similarly, for engineering and cloud computing, the same thing, talking about deep learning, machine learning, algorithm, TensorFlow, etc. So from Australia point of view, our government, have released they call it AI roadmap. Again, you can take a look at that, but together with the CSIRO. CSIRO stands for Commonwealth Science and Industry Research Organization. So they got a research group, Data 61. So they create the roadmap. And talking about from Australia, as a country, so what are the area we should concentrate on? So in the report, this is a full report. I just take some screen capture from it. They're talking about they expect the world economy in AI is going to be 22.17 trillion by 2030. So that's why this particular report developed by CSIRO, talking about how we, as a nation, how we look into these areas. We can create jobs, economic growth, and also we can encourage export, improve the quality of life and for the current and the future generations. So these are some of the examples that identify the areas. AI can be applied in helping people living in a disability, impaired vision. So looking at diagnosis, helping the senior citizens living independent at home to longer. So in particular, in the Western world, most of us realize that one of the aging population is the main problem in terms of the younger generation. The population growth is is lower than the sustainable percentage. But nevertheless, it will cost the society a lot of money. So the government really would like to see the people can living in their home more independently. So using robotics is really one of the areas can be applied. And looking at some other applications, Australia is a major pillar of economic income is really from the agriculture and also from the mining industry. So from the agriculture point of view, a robot can be used to apply for wheat reductions and also the management of the environment, the soil quality, etc. And also, there are data showing that a lot of the small businesses, they're also using AI for the services, or they provide the AI services and products as well. Bushfire is a major problem. I believe all of you realize, it was a world news headline that early last year in the summertime, that Australia suffered very bad bushfire in the western states. A lot of areas, in Queensland, New South Wales, they suffer very bad bushfire, and up to 1/3 of the wildlife have died. So using AI satellite pictures, all these things, can identify the hotspot, and also can have a more preemptive action as well to stop the issue. And also another application, helping people to improve the mental health. Well, even in the COVID-19, under the lockdown situation, although we are now quite okay in most of the states, say for example in Western Australia, I got no problem at all, although we only have just some recommendation in terms of the social distancing. Otherwise, we are supposed to be in so-called stage 4. We were originally supposed to go to stage 5, but now it's being expanded because of the concern about the cases over in East Coast in Victoria. So when people under lockdown, they're under a lot of stress, so using these AI techniques, also through the communication with them, through the chat and also through the mobile phone, etc., they monitor the health and also maintain, their well-being as well. And others, using AI to looking diagnosis for skin cancer. Australians love the sun. They spend a lot of time in the outdoors, by the beaches, swimming, and also they work in the backyard and all those things. So we are one of the highest cases of cancer, melanoma, that's mainly the skin cancers. So if you're able to identify quicker, then you will help a lot to save a lot of lives. And of course, we're using AI to create robots and all those areas can create a lot of job and career opportunities. So the three main areas, the Australian government has looked into are the AI specialization. So these are the areas where we do see as a nation we can put focus on. We can help create our wealth, and also we can help to the export as well. So the three main areas are natural resources, environment, the health, aging, and the disability, and also the cities, town, and infrastructure. So in terms of the health, aged care and disability, so you have already heard I mentioned about we are an aging society. So we have, and also we put in a lot of money in terms of having those people with special needs where we have what we call the NDIS, National Disability Services. So according to the recent report from the WHO, and the size and the growth of the global health expenditure in 2015 is around 10.6 trillion, and 10% of the global GDP, and the annual growth 4% compared to overall economic growth of 2.8%. So you can see the money people putting in, into health actually is higher than what they have in general growth as well. But one of the things I didn't share earlier on, from the earlier report from World Economic Forum is really on the care economy. So it's really, this is part of it as well. The other one is a better town, cities, and infrastructure. Well, even though Australia, we have a lot of land, but nevertheless, people still cluster into the coastal city. So we still have the big cities like Sydney and Melbourne in those big states. And also they continue to expect to grow. Perth is not that bad, but still we have issues in terms of the peak hour traffic. We have the main artery, highways and freeway, etc. So you do be much better to have better infrastructures and to planning and also manage for the system as well. So we see that if we're able to improve the efficiency, so we could, one of the main areas are autonomous vehicles, driverless vehicles, those kind of areas. So you're looking at the worldwide, automated vehicle market is expected to be around US for 173.15 billion by the year 2030. And also we look at it, there will be around 20 billion to 30 billion the global market by 2028, and 5 to 10 billion in Asia Pacific. And then the market for the cyber physical security is likely to generate another 30 to 40 billion, and also between 10 to 15 billion in Asia Pacific. So obviously, you can see that within our Region 10, Asia Pacific region, there's a lot of opportunities for these type of applications. Or even as early just a few days ago, I just take a look at a Sunday paper. Well, that's why they come up with something called the Smart Freeway. But what they're saying is, well, if you are on the freeway, if you take a look at the signs and recommended signs and the speed, by follow this one, you're able to reduce the congestion. So I guess what they're really looking at is the overall management and try to, well, do not really create the congestion if everyone is running at their own speed. So these are some of the typical examples it's already rolling out. I've already mentioned in terms of the Australia economic activities are based on agriculture and mining. So those will really require a close and optimal management of our natural resources. So using this, say for example, like food system. So the global food system we expected to grow for production as much as 35%, and from to 2030, from the 2015 baseline. So we do expect by using AI-enabled system, we get a crucial role in allowing the world to produce more food and fiber within the tighter environmental constraint. So on one hand, we do not really want to overexploit and overproduce, and also we see issues like the wastage and overproduction. So according to the industry, well, OSMI, the Australian mass sector, generate 90 billion in revenue, employs 400,000 people, export to more than 200 countries. So the new mining operation use AI in mineral exploration and operational phase of development, another growth area to the world. See, for example, like Africa, well, part of Region 8, we to see that the mining activities is going up there, although they have the issues in terms of the infrastructure and also the political issues as well. But nevertheless, well, there are potential areas for us to help in terms of using AI in the mining operation. So looking at all these, well, we're talking about, well, how AI has been creating jobs. We're having a lot of different areas, and also within Australia, we have our main focus on that. So are we asking ourselves, are we going to enter a brave new world? We can see it has already got a lot of advancement, got ability to generate large amount of data anywhere, anytime. The development of learning, analytic, and predictive algorithm. So we're able to see the things are getting smarter. We also have a lot of improvement in the computational infrastructure and related technology. And as you have heard from Dr. Polowski, and how about all the different system and infrastructure over in Poland. And also successful application in many disciplines for domain, industry, and business. So everywhere, well, every day you see a lot of articles reporting about a lot of different areas. But the key thing is, can we really trust all those systems and techniques, okay? Some of you may have come across these two movies, and I must say that, well, these two movies is maybe part of the landmark, really in the past. Well, one was 1968 production, 2001 Space Odyssey. You talk about the computer, how you take over, and then the astronaut had to fight for their own survival. The other one, called Short Circuit in 1986. I find it's an interesting movie, quite comical, and it's touched my heart. And then, well, when you think about, well, the machine can really have a human, sense of humor. Actually, the last scene is talking about, well, number 5, actually called robot number 5. He was struck by lightning. And then there's some kind of short circuit with the system. And it was so intelligent that whereby you can read from the book and then get the knowledge, you can communicate. And then, of course, you get a speech recognition and all those things. And that was produced around 1986. And we see it's happening now. But the most interesting part is, well, at the end of it, it can understand a joke. Okay? And actually, I think that, well, now we can have some robotic comedian. But really, the jokes are really inputted by human being. But if we can come to this time that really a human being, a robot can by itself, can stand alone, can create entirely by itself, can do a short, stand-up comedian. Very interesting to see that. We have already seen some of the AI applying to arts already. But having said that, well, okay, where are we now? So looking at some of these landmark type of scientific, you can name a lot more as well. Okay, Total Recall, talking about Terminators, okay, so people get worried about it. But we see some of the recent reports which draw a lot of attention, mainly in the mainstream media as well. But some of these happened late last year. This is October 2019. Millions of Black people affected by racial bias in the healthcare algorithm. So on one hand, we try to apply a lot of these smart algorithms into healthcare, but on the sea, we may see some problem in there. The algorithm that detect hate speech while online are biased against Black people. The best algorithm struggle to recognize Black faces equally. Artificial intelligence had a problem with gender and racial bias. And these two were famous celebrity or personality, okay? Oprah Winfrey was recognized, appears to be a male, 76.5% accuracy. Michelle Obama is a young man wearing a black shirt, a confidence level 80%. So we see something issue. We see Serena Williams, the same thing as well. But I think it's much more concerning that if some of this application is being used to predict criminals, that is the problem. And I'm not too sure you recall a movie called Minority Report by Tom Cruise, and talking about how the machine can predict the murder or crime is going to happen, so therefore stand the people go to eliminate and try to stop it happen. So we have a fundamental problem issue in here now. If we, can we really claim that, it's a criminal that have committed a crime because it hasn't committed yet? So this is an issue. If you think that our system is so smart, can predict everything. So you can see in the same report talking about IBM abandons the biased facial recognition techniques. Facial recognition fails on race, and also passport facial checks fails to work with the dark skin. And then this 2019 study indicating facial recognition works poorly. As a matter of fact, if you now go to the website, I think the one Microsoft Azure actually got a big statement claiming about that. It has a principle of equality, something like that. I should have do a screen capture. Now, if we come back to the IEEE, we just passed the updated Code of Ethics in the June board meeting, 2020. And let's take a look at some of these main things. To uphold the high standard of integrity, responsible behavior, and ethical conduct in the professional activities. One of the main things is to strive to comply with the ethical design and sustainable development practices to protect the privacy of others and to disclose promptly factors that might endanger the public or the environment. So we can see earlier on, we mentioned about how you can get data everywhere. You even go into implant so that you can collect the data. Without that, you cannot buy or sell. On the other hand, how to handle this data? We need to be a major concern. It's good that we see that the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation in EU being put in place. These are the things that the government need to put in the policy. And more importantly, from designer point of view, this should be taken into account as well, to improve the understanding by individual and society of the capabilities and the societal implication of the conventional and emerging technologies, including intelligence systems. In other words, it should be taken into account in the designing stage, not just the functionality, but also what will be the possible social implication to these individuals and to the environment as well. On the second page, we're talking about to treat all persons fairly with respect and not to engage in the discrimination based on characteristics like race, religion, gender, etc., etc. So if you're looking at the earlier reports on how it bias against the Black people, the Asian, the women, the age, Asian, then we got the issue in there. And also to avoid injuring others, the properties or reputations or employment of using force or malicious action, rumors or other verbal or physical abuse. You may have heard about this application called deepfake. It's able to create a false image, whereby actually that particular report talking about he created Obama making a speech, but actually he didn't do that at all. He didn't use it at all. So that would be a major concern because it could be put into court to accuse someone falsely, or vice versa. You could have a criminal being taken to court, and then he said that those evidence against him are fake. So you really have a problem in there. So nevertheless, it's the same apply to the other professional bodies as well. I'm in Australia, where in Engineering Australia is our national body. We also have our Code of Ethics and Personal Conduct. So we're talking about we need to demonstrate integrity. We need to respect the dignity of all persons. Okay. We need to promote sustainability. We're talking about in terms of the environment for the future generation. ACS, Australian Computer Society, is another professional bodies. You also have a list of code of ethics. We talk about the primacy of the public interest, enhancement of the quality of life. So all this you can see as a professional body. We have our code of ethics, whereby we expected the members to follow. Even in the Australian government, the same. On one hand, you see that they have published the AI roadmap. They have also come up with the AI ethics framework. So they have some document also can be downloaded, but you can see some of the main principles are looking at the areas: human, social, environmental well-being, human-centered values, fairness, privacy protection and security, reliability and safety, transparency and explainability, contestability, accountability. So this is really from the government point of view. Well, we expect AI system should be able to abide to all these guidelines. So that leads to our IEEE work. And I encourage everyone to take a good look at if you are really working in the area of AI and also you're really interested in the area of ethics. Again, as I said, I haven't really involved this one, although I participate in some of the community. But nevertheless, they have a lot of resources that have been made available. A couple of publications be available. Like the recent one, like the call of action to the business using AI. You can download the complete PDF file. So mainly they're looking at ethically aligned design. So in other words, when you go back, e-business, health application, all these things, they have all the different areas, variable devices. They should really go back to the fundamental principle for the design. You should have to take that into account. So really, this is what it's all about. So I just do a screen capture of the document, looking at establish the societal and policy guidelines, okay, so that you can remain human-centric, but serving humanity values and the ethical principles. Don't forget our mission is advancing technologies for humanity, okay? Humanity is the key thing, should be over technology. And then looking at the goal of this, global project, okay, this has been, I think, since 2018, to provide the pragmatic and directional insights and recommendations, serving as a key reference for the work of technologists, educators, and policymakers in the coming years. Really, this is what it's all about. So if you go to the website, you can see some of these resources. So you have the first one, the ethical aligned design document, first edition. Now they have a second edition. Really, they're looking at inviting the comment as well. So this is what you see, in that particular document. It's really quite a comprehensive document. It's close around 300 pages. So looking at different chapters and also different chapters in here, referring to we start off by looking at how you put from principle to practice, the general principle behind it, and how it's based on the classical ethics, in both the Western and the Eastern value as well. And looking at the well-being, effective computing. So you heard about the next generation of web. Maybe looking at the emotion. That is really what it's all about. How to take care of the data and the individuals, ethical principle of design. How to be sustainable development. How to embed all these values. How to incorporate into the policies and laws, etc. So these are some of the principles as well. You can see it's a very similar to what we have in the AI ethics framework in Australia. So I'm not going through all these things. You can download this one. These are some of the explanation of different chapters as well, talking about ethical ethics, classic ethics, and how AI can be applied, personal data's right, framework, and the policy of education and awareness. I think this is important. That's part of the objective I'm sharing. I really want people to look into this. It may not be applicable to the system you're working on, but really something you should take into consideration, in particular when you're dealing with a human. You deal with some kind of metrics for the well-being and how to embed the values into that, and how to guide the design. And this is where the document comes in. So the following still slide, actually, as I took liberty from the presentation from Standard Association. The key thing is that they have already come up with some guideline looking into how to recognize the social technical areas for the development as a standard, and also how to address the conceptual aspect of the technology, and also how to invite the participation in the designs. So the key thing is, they have come up with all this framework and chapters is really reflect back to the first edition of the document of the EAD, ethically aligned design. So they have already come up as a world first, the IEEE standard 7000, with a list of these individual topics. You can take a look at each one of these by going through. If you go to the website, click on that, then you can see the individual standards. You can also, from there, you can click onto it to assess it, either you buy it or you go through the subscription. So they will go into explore, then you go into the particular individual, and then talk about what is the abstract on this particular standard. I think they said 7000. What is the scope it works on, and what is the purpose of this? So as I said, well, I'm not really an expert in this one, but I just want to show and then point to your attention. Same thing apply well to the technical standard, okay, also a range of these. So, and then we can see from the standard point of view, maybe go to the next point, it will be some kind of certification program in place. Well, when we were sharing that particular webinar at that time, one of the comments was really, in a way, is quite similar to what's been happening in the past when you design electronic system. One of the areas is the EMI, okay, electronic magnetic interference. So if you sell your product, you need to really meet the requirement, in particular, if there's some safety, medical, health, and those involved. So there's no difference when compare in the future. That when we see the integration of this intelligent system in the human society, we should expect, well, more and more, well, I wouldn't like to use the word control, but I would say the expectation. They should really expect it to behave, well, ethically, well, as a human being. So maybe some kind of certification program may come in, but this is, well, at the beginning stage. So looking into the certification program is how to certify the criteria for responsible innovation and delivery of the AI system to address the issue of transparency, accountability, and also how to address the issue of bias. And also how to identify themselves as being trustworthy and beneficial in the use of AI products, services, and systems to develop or operate. So that means that with the certificate, well, you know that they meet a certain standard. And so the second phase of the work will be dedicated to the application of the criteria in the vertical industry, developing the proof of concept, and helping define the system to implement the criteria. So this is still in the beginning stage, but I do expect maybe this is no difference compared to the standard quality assurance in times to come as well. We do expect our system to meet a certain expectation to be used in the society. So all in all, I come to my end now. I hope my time is still okay. So in summary, we have seen the earlier slides. We can safely say that AI, data science, all these related disciplines will enjoy growth in time to come as well. We see that job opportunity is coming up. And also we see deployment of all these autonomous intelligence systems expected to be in a broad spectrum across the society. But however, there are challenges involved in integrating them, and also the factors to be taken into consideration beyond the functional specifications. And also it's important for such systems to align with the expected ethical principles and behavior in the society in order to gain trust and acceptance. It is very important because if we lose the trust in it, it won't work. So I'm really proud to say that IEEE is leading the world by developing standard and certification to address the issues. So this finish all. Just one more slide, okay? So I'm using the Google, don't be evil as an example. But subsequently they dropped this motto. But then again, in the last annual report, so they have one statement saying that, and remember, don't be evil, and you wish something that you think isn't right, speak up. So maybe you go really beyond just don't be evil, not just doing the right thing, but rather we also need to ensure that things are being done right.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. I request you to share your screen once again. It's not visible.
Sorry?
Please share your screen once again. It's not visible.
You are not.
Madam, it's visible. Yeah, it's visible, but you have to pin this. Neha, madam, you can pin this.
Is the screen drop out?
Yes.
It's okay now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Is it okay now? All right, then, okay. So anyway.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So we just simply make sure, for us, we're part of the developer designer, we are the engineers, scientists, technologists, etc. We really try to make sure our machines and also maybe humans are ethical. But what I really haven't shared is how to make the machine to make sure others, people, and machine ethical. There might be another school of thought as well. Okay. Anyway, let's finish off with my presentation now. Okay. So I pass the time back to you now. Okay. So I'm just
thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for providing.
So after that enlightening presentation.
Yes. Yeah, madam.
So after that enlightening presentation, sir, I'm sure that we all have gained a new appreciation for ethics in e-sciences. Thank you once again. Shall we take question answers first, Vijay sir, if you permit?
Yes, please.
Okay. So with your permission, I ask Professor Pang to
Okay, I can take a look.
Answer a few queries that we have
Yep, I can take a look at the chat now, answer some of the questions if it is in my area. So
we
I'm
have
just
received
looking
a
at the
few queries
latest
in the
one.
chat box, sir.
So there's one from Eric DC.
All right.
Do you think, sir, that the ability to comprehend things will always be the difference between human and artificial intelligence? Or we will be able to teach AI, the AI, for example, to perfectly understand the world around us? Do you think the AI can achieve human comprehension of the world? I would say that, well, we are right now is something what we call a narrow AI. And personally, I believe that to a certain area or domain, AI is able to solve the problem. But I think the ultimate goal, you're talking about the general AI. But nevertheless, well, I wouldn't compare this one to the human being, because I would dare to challenge you. Can we really get a human being to have the full comprehension of the whole world? Really, I doubt it. So in other words, I would just limit itself to the application area. So I wouldn't bother too much. Although I know there's some areas talking about general AI is one of the area of research. And then another question from Joe He. From fiction to reality, do you think that we can come across any cases in the future where human with brain chips can give a competitive exam and get selected, and somebody externally can add or delete the chip's content as and when required by reading the minds of the human? You're talking about the movie Total Recall. Well, I hope you have watched the movie. And I think that Elon Musk is really working on something like that, isn't it? I'm not too sure. Well, maybe my colleague, Professor Polowski, you want to answer this? How the implementations of the chips and enhance the capability of the human? I'll pass it to you, Professor Polowski. Your mic is mute. Please unmute it. Please unmute your mic. Yeah, okay, I'll pass this one to you. This is a question from Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is asking that, well, can you put in a brain chip so that you can delete or add the chip, the content, and so that you can read the mind of the human?
Let me check this question.
And actually, my wife doesn't need the chips. She can read my mind, I tell you. So that's from Joey. Yeah.
So during my presentation, I told you that I think that maybe in next 10 years we will use implants to be, let's say, as a part of Internet of everything. But in context of chips in brain, I don't think so. So I'm sure that people will be connected to the internet, but in this moment it's difficult to say how and in which way. But I think brain chips, no. What about your opinion?
Well, I think that having the brain is a thing, but then again, it has been proven that people can put into the nerve system, they can make the vision that appears. Well, what I'm trying to say is that you can have someone that is born blind, and then connecting to the certain a nervous system that able to see the image, and maybe quite crude as well. We have seen that it is already happening in terms of the hearing. Okay, so we got the implants for hearing. So to what extent put in the brain? Well, as I said, we do not foresee it's happening, but then again, we do not know. Because we know that one of the areas talking about people digital twin, maybe it's some kind of move whereby you can download your brain and all the things inside that. We do not know it's going to happen or not, but I'm pretty sure I won't live long enough to see that. And I don't want them to keep my brain as well. Let's take a look at another question. Okay, this was another question. Algorithms and AI techniques can sometimes also make mistakes. So what are your view about this? Exactly. So that's exactly what the problem we are facing. So because I think the facial recognition about the dark skin, that one, my personal opinion is, well, it's not so much in terms of the training data, because people always say, okay, if I have enough training data, well, then it should be okay. But then again, well, you cannot say that, well, having equal number of, say, for example, black people and white people, then you are trained it equally. Not necessarily. Because I personally think that maybe the color is really the issue. Is a color issue, nothing to do with the race. What I'm trying to say is, some time ago I read an article talking about this company. They have create this darkest color in the world. It's the darkest color. It's so dark that, well, you can have 3D objects. But then again, well, when every light shine on it, it absorbs all the light. It doesn't reflect anything. So when you take, well, a picture of it, it appears as a 2D. So there's no way you can differentiate. It's only when you, well, roll the camera sideways, then you realize it was a 3D sculpture. So in that case, there might be some of the issue in there in terms of lighting. I do not know. I'm just simply, well, guessing in here that maybe somebody working on that already. So if you're talking about the errors as well, I do believe a human, we also have human error. Say, for example, well, a lot of cars, well, human error. So when you come to the court, so really they need to come to the decision. Okay, is it really an accident? Accident can happen. But if it is a machine, I believe that you need to be accountable, you need to be explainable. So this is the problem of deep learning. If you're looking into decision trees, we can always trace back how the decision is being made. Okay, we can go for all the rules, a rule-based system, all those things. But the deep learning, artificial intelligence, you have a problem. So I think that, well, this is one we are still, well, struggling. So I think from what I recall in terms of the presentation and talking about how to address this, is maybe the data set itself, you really need to have some kind of a quality assurance check on the data set. So that means that when you come, well, to the court of law, see, okay, who is really making, well, to be responsible for that? Then, because I always, well, we can ask ourselves the question, if an autonomous machine will cause an injury or kill someone, who is responsible? The designer, the programmer, the manufacturer, the user? So who is it? Okay, so I think that we haven't juggled that particular issue. But then again, at least if you're talking about, okay, well, this is the system. And then when we use this data set, we have gone through the process of checking the accuracy of this one. Tick. Okay, so at least we have something to fall back to. So I believe this is what, well, the ethical design all about. Okay, I don't know. This is my understanding of that one. Let's take a look at the same question from Joey. One of the speakers in early, Dr. Katerina, give example, AI invented by machine include the bias, and how can the inventor developer can be trained to eliminate the bias? So that's exactly what I'm saying. Well, you need to have a better data control of the data and maybe some kind more, well, transparency on that one as well. What kind of ethical issue can arise if AI technology is used in education field? Interesting point. I myself, well, think that we have been applying AI. Well, I'm aware of using some kind of intelligent tutor system. Okay, so now the question is for our education system. Well, again, don't call me because I'm out already. I'm retired already. But if you take a look at our system right now, we have the one system for all in terms of our curriculum, in terms of our examination process, because we're using it as some kind of well, just a one-stop shop, well, one size fits all. But we all know that this is not the same because, well, everyone, well, also learning style also different. I believe that even, well, India, you just simply recently you have an NEP, the new educational policy, right? So some of the things they're talking about, okay, why not we have an intelligent system? We can gauge, well, the guys' process progress. And as a matter of fact, in the COVID-19, in the online system, everybody studied at home. It's a perfect way, well, to educate them. So they go into the individual progress, and then we can have a micro credential. We can lock them, well, accordingly. But then again, when you go out to look for jobs, it's no longer just a single certificate because I got a first class honor, because a second class honor. This is the unit I've done. But you can go down to the minor details, well, what they've done. You can blockchain the whole thing. Then you can see it from the employer point of view. He is not employing someone just because of got a BSc degree or BEng degree, but rather he can employ someone. He got a track record, which is a blockchain, which has well, then he can match. Does it meet my particular expectation? And that will give some kind of more flexibility. And that's how I see that not only AI itself, but rather talking about in the blockchain technology or can be. I always think that, well, micro-credential, maybe a micro-education could be coming in place. Okay, I'm not too sure any more coming in now. I know that I have 10 minutes.
I think it's very fine. Now I think because of the limitation of the time, so what we can do, we can take one more question for Polkowski sir, and then we can find out. So, Professor Polkowski, you want to take one
yes,
more question?
there was a question for him, which he has already answered in the chat box. But I would request sir to please
Okay.
share it with everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was regarding the COVID that it has forced all citizens in Poland to use e-services. As sir replied to the question that how has COVID situation lead to changes in the e-services in public administration system of Poland?
Okay. So, in my opinion, COVID has forced all citizens in Poland to use e-services. So we are going to do research on this topic, but in this moment it's difficult to say, to answer how many people, which person, if you compare this year to last year. But to be honest, services are everywhere and we use almost every day. We didn't have the same situation like last year. To be honest, so some people didn't use e-services because they prefer face-to-face contact. So it is like the online teaching. Take a look. We have to been forced to teach using electronic platform. For example, we use Teams and Zoom and so on. And for me, this is no problem. But if you ask students, they will say that they miss face-to-face contact with professors. So there are some, let's say, positive and negative aspect of using e-services, but in in my opinion, as I told you, I like e-business, I like e-services, I like e-commerce, and so on. So for me, it's not problem. But people have to be forced; they have to use. Otherwise, they will have a lot of problems. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we come to the
Neha
end
madam.
of our week. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Neha madam, excuse
Yes,
me.
sir.
I think Professor Puri, Vincenzo Puri is also with us. Professor Vincenzo Puri is with us
All right.
already. So I may request Professor Vincenzo Puri if you can say a few words for 2 minutes. Professor Vincenzo Puri, if you are there, sir. Professor Puri.
So we could request Professor Puri to please
I think
take over.
you are just there just before some time. There's no problem.
I think he got
So,
disconnected.
Neha madam, can you please share? Yeah, can you please share the certificates of Professor Polkowski
Yes, sir,
and Professor
definitely.
Lansford?
So with this come,
Yeah.
with this, we come to the end of our week-long series of webinars. We thank you all for being such enthusiastic participants, and we hope that this experience will remain with us, with all our speakers, delegates, and participants, and that we will all move forward from here, having learned new ideas and strategies that will bring us academic enrichment. Thank you all once again. I now request Professor Rathore to take over and share a few words.
Fine. So I'd like to say thank from deep of my heart to both the speakers for giving such a nice information. And I am sure that the knowledge will be used by the participants for upliftment of their research, and they'll definitely get benefited out of those knowledge. And both of the speakers, I'm thankful to with us. And please accept, yeah, please
Sir, I
accept
think
the
Professor Puri
certificate.
has joined back.
Fine, fine.
I think
So,
Professor Puri
may I request both the speakers to accept the certificate?
joined back.
Fine, fine. So, Professor Puri, are you there? Professor Puri?
Sorry, the microphone was not working. I had to go out and get back again. I would like to thank you. Sure.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this experience, and I would like to thank you, Vijay, and all the other organizers, the hosts, the university, for having given us this wonderful experience to share our knowledge and lamp together and light together the lamp of knowledge. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thanks to one and all. Yeah, madam. Fine. So now let us declare the end of
Yes,
the
sir.
fourth webinar. And again, we would like to thank all the speakers, all the participants, all the team of IIS University, SE and Untitled Chapter for putting all their efforts to make this event successful. Thank you so much to all of you. And we'll meet soon in the next event in 2021. That is Base Post 2021. Let us meet again after some time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to one and all.
Okay.
Namaskar.
Okay,
Thanks a lot. Thank you everyone for joining in.
bye bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good night.
Namaskar.